I'm going to start a little bit my intention is to do a couple of videos, probably about 100 videos that I will be doing live, to explain everything from weather conditions, the natural, how to look for reefs, basically everything up and coming skipper needs to know. These are my point of views, so let's make that clear. It's not a professional's point of view. It's my point of view, and I can be wrong. Nobody say I'm right. I don't claim I'm right, but this is what works for me. So I'm going to start off with things to look for when you're leaving port, planning your trip and so forth. You go to the weather side, you decide, you look at the pressure. Is it the rising pressure? Is it falling pressure? Those type of things. I will go into detail about pressure, which is very important. A lot of the guys believe in lunar. I will run on that. Then what I want to do now, I did a portion on how to find reefs if you haven't got marks, and it was unfortunate, it was in Afrikaans, and a lot of the guys WhatsApp me and asked me. I must have had about 300 people WhatsApp me and asked me to please explain this in English. So it goes about knowledge that I picked up when I was doing survey work on a survey vessel and talking to the survey guys, that do the multi-beaming and so forth. So if you look at your contour lines, I'm going to take this map out and try to explain to you. These are your contour lines. This is one of the oldest maps that's still got the deca marks, the deca lines and so forth. And it's also got your longitude and latitude on the side. Now, when these guys do a mapping and so forth, it is accurate, but it can change because you've got to understand how the situation is. If you look at the mountain ranges in Durban, they all run from north to south or from south to north, most of them. So these mountains continue in the ocean as well. If you look at mid-reef, the way they're all laying. There's a couple of them that lays this way, but very few. So it all starts when it rains. So assume your mountain range, the bluff, continues on this portion here, all the way here. And it rains down on the Drakensberg. It collects on a farmer's soil, it collects the dust and so forth. The dust goes into the river, the sand particles goes into the river, and it comes out on your river mouths, all of your river mouths, Umhloti, Tongat, Tugala, Isipingo, cuttings. Then there's a portion from Bentry to the Oil Boy. If you look at the mountain range, there are millions of years, that was a huge river actually that came in there, but we'll come back to that later. So the particles comes down the river, the sand particles comes down the river, and it goes in here. So wherever you've got the mountain, if a mountain would be here, you'll have these sand particles cutting into the rocks, and it will make grooves, but it will fan out straight and this way and that way. It will do that, all the way out. So you'll have your mountain range here, and you'll have grooves in it, in that portion. When you come where there's not a mountain range, where there's not a inlet, a river or so forth, your mountain would be without all of these grooves. Now, these grooves are very important when it comes to the current being strong. So you find your current running, the fish has got a weight on it, it can't swim up and down the current the whole time. So what they do is they go with the current, and they get to these places where these grooves are. And they actually go and lie in that grooves and they sit and wait for the food to come past them and they eat there. So now, the question you'll ask me is, but if there's mountains out there, why have we only got a 4 to 5 meter uplift in our reefs? You know, you don't find 50 meters difference. It's because of all the sand particles with the rain that's being carried down the river that fills up in between the mountain ranges. You understand? Now, if the mountain range, if the particle comes out here, it hits the current that goes up and down, depending on whether you've got a southwester or northeaster wind blowing. That will cause your current to run this way and that way. So the sand will knock middle reef. Let's take middle reef there. The sand will knock middle reef. And the sand particles will go around it. And it will make this ridge here, which is a sand ridge. Now when it comes to this portion here, it's not a sand ridge anymore. That portion is. This portion here would be a rock. But the sand particles will fill up in between the mountains. It will fill up. That's why we don't get that big difference between sand and rocks. For millions of years, these sand particles has been building up and filling up between the mountain ranges out at sea. Now, if you want to increase your fish population and so forth, increase your reefs. How you do that? Easy. Make barriers in the rivers that catch up the sand and give people concession to take out the sand for building construction. So you lesser the sand that goes out into the sea and so forth. But that's another topic. It's basically just to explain how this, at the time, what this map made, it was accurate, very accurate. So you will basically look at a portion like this. From there to there, there will be a rock there, there will be a rock there, and there will be a rock there. That's why it's making this bend. You look at this portion here, there will be a rock there. Now you look at your deeper reefs, you'll have a rock here, and you'll have a rock there. So the only way, there's no consistency about this, like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. It doesn't work that way in the ocean. You have to decide on which chart. If you look at the Navionics charts and so forth, the latest charts, which they've got the contour lines extensively colored in and so forth, I find it very difficult to work on that because sand particles move. The moment they make that map, it is accurate. Then the longer it goes between the update of the maps, those sand dunes move. Not a lot, but they do move. So, but when it hits a rock like here, you've got a coordinates for there that you can work on. So you start there and put your line down, and you feel whether it's sand or whether it's rock. You can put a 600, 500, 800 gram. Once you hit the bottom, you'll feel it's soft sand or it will be rock. So you start in 20 meters intervals and you go further down, straight out from there, straight out. And then you'll get your value for the 50 meter line. This is your 50 meter line here. You get your value for the 50 meter line. So on your first day of fishing, you establish your 50 meter line, your 25 meter line, your 100 meter line. Where's the 100 meter line? This is the 100 meter line here. Look at the 100 meter line there. You look there. On the 100 meter line, it should be 1.7 kilometers. On the 200 meters, should be about 2.6 kilometers on the 500 meter line. On the 500 meter line, you look at this line here. There will be a rock here. And there will be a ridge here. But on this, what's known as 4.7 kilometers. You know, and that would be your norm. for the area that you are fishing. It should be the norm for the whole of South African coast on the east coast, you know, and that is basically how you find your reefs. You look for the bend in the contour line, and then that's your starting point. From there, you will never sound this way. You'll always sound out. So you'll sound out and come back and do this and go back again. So once you found the uplift here and the uplift there, then you mark it. Once you've marked all of them like that, you start from this way and you go that way, and then you mark your uplifts. So then you've got your whole reef. So if the current's running this way, the fish will be lying on the lee side of the rock, because they wait for they can't swim up against the current the whole time. They sit in the leeway. They wait for the food to go over. Like this is the rock, the current's running this way. It will make a turbulence here. Fish sits here. Food comes across here. Plankton and everything that attracts the smaller fish attracts the bigger fish, and the whole ecosystem starts working. So that's your rock, current goes this way. So if you've got your reef lined out like that now, you know exactly. Sometimes the currents run this way, the fish will be this side, currents run that way. That you will see with the drift. Your boats are drifting. So I hope that clears that matter out. Now, if we're launching out here in Durban, we will start with looking at the website CSRI website. Look at the actual. They've got a south pier that measures the wind on the south pier inside the harbour, and they've got Tugela and they've got Port Shepstone and so forth. During that, you can see for the last. It works from 12 o'clock till 12 o'clock in the evening, 12 o'clock in the evening till 12 o'clock in the evening. So you can see what the actual wind speed was during that period. So then you've got a way to figure out whether, you know, the forecast for the day was absolutely right, you know, and then you can see, right, they're a little bit wrong. It's better conditions than what's named, or it's worse conditions. You know? And you can see on the Tugela it's blowing, and you work according to that. And then I like to use wind finder. I find them very accurate, and between those two sites, I can determine whether I'm going fishing or not. Then when you leave the harbour, you must understand we've got an absolute friendly coast. This is the most friendliest coast of anywhere. If you look at the way the coastline runs, this way, Durban, it makes that hollow there. Now if you look at your northeaster wind, we have majority northeaster winds. The ruler is set on northeast there. If you put it that way, you can see if you've got a northeaster wind and you're going south, and you're ending up at Allowal, and the wind's blowing, you should take your boat on a beat. That means the waves are coming like this, the waves are going that way, right? So you take it on a beat, you come in, and you hug the coast. Once you hug the coast, you'll find that this area here is sheltered by the bluff completely. So past Toti it will be sheltered already. So if you're coming from Allowal, you head for Toti, and you hug the coast and you come up the coast. That's with a howling northeaster. The only problem you're going to have is here by the point of the bluff. You'll take a bit of a beating there, and then you're around the corner, you're in. If it's a southwester and you went north, you're coming with it on your back, so you don't have problem. If it's a northeaster and you went south, coming with it on your back, and you don't have a problem. You're going northeast and there, southwester blows. Right? Southwester, that's your ruler. Look at the coastline. You get sheltered. So, if you, Sheffield, You head for Umhlanga. You take the waves on the side beam. You can flatten your boat out. Reach Umhlanga, hug the coast, and come in. It's very easy. I've seen a lot of guys make the mistake. They just punch it straight into the waves coming in. Your boat's not fuel efficient. That little bit of distance you do extra is better. Right. So when I come out of the harbor, first thing I look at the 1 mile beacon. There's a light that flashed there. We normally come out 5 o'clock in the morning. It's still dark. Slow down. Have a look at that light. See how she flickers. If that light disappears, then it means there's big swells out there. If I can't see the ships, or at the south pier point it breaks, I know I'm expecting big waves and so forth. Another thing we'll look for is the ships, which way the ships are facing. That will give you wind direction and current. Sometimes you'll find them laying in this direction, but the wind's blowing in this direction. Then it means your current is northeast. You've got a wind against the current. Then you'll also see sometimes you'll find ships laying like that, and then the other portion it will lay this way. That means your current is changing different areas. Now, a lot of the people say for me, we go out, the current is too strong. If the current is too strong, you need to know your geographical situation about our coastline, because there's always a portion. If you look at the distance here on the depth 50-meter line, see how thin it is there, and see how thick it is here. So that means you've got the same volume of water moving, but when it goes to shallow ground and it's this wide, we're talking about 15 kilometers before it goes deeper than 50-meter line. But on this side here, you've got 6 kilometers. That means the volume of water here will be going much faster than the volume here. So if the current is screaming on this side here, you need to fish where the current's not screaming. Water's got to be replaced. It can't flow in one direction the whole time. So when it flows here, you need to look at the current lines. You'll always find there's an area just not a lot. Where's the well? Where the well is, it actually makes a horseshoe like that in the contour lines. You'll find that this is where the current would change. So your current will run there, it will come out, and it will run back in a deeper line. But somewhere in between there must be a lull. You'll normally find that lull with the plastic bags lying there, or you can see it on the ocean. You should be... sorry. Wasn't interrupted there with a rude person on the phone. So your current's got to turn. If you find a lull, the fish will also be more in a lull, where the current goes this way and the current goes this way. Sometimes it's not so visible on top because the wind is strong. So you'll have this whole portion, you'll have a top current, but your bottom current is an important one to have a look at that stage then, because you'll have a lot of water on the top going, and this portion the water will be going, and this portion it will be replacing, and in the center would be your lull. That's where all your plankton will be, where your bait fish is and so forth. So a good indication is when you're traveling your bait fish, if you can establish on what depth your bait fish is surfacing, then you know this is where I'm working. I'm working this depth line. But I'm gonna let this video sink in. Guys, I want to reach 1 million views. Share this with your friends if you think it's If you think it's valuable information, share it with your friends, ask them to follow. I'll do another one on the, what do you call it, the pressure and what effect the pressure has on a fish.